Be at peace. Realize God's love and mercy and your own freedom. I see exactly what you mean about the business of taking a strong stand on injustices. From a certain point of view, one must certainly not do as Eichmann did, for example. But on the other hand, this business of lining up the good guys and the bad guys and deciding for the good, deciding that one is oneself just, and making sure of it by openly condemning the unjust. This is in fact condemned everywhere in the gospel, isn't it? What about St. Paul's doctrine about those who felt they were just because they kept the law and others didn't? It seems to me you are only living up to the New Testament. There is certainly evil in the world, but we know nothing about who is morally responsible for it except when we ourselves act against love and life and against everything that promotes life and meaning. In point of fact, the attitude of the professionally just does in fact become quite unjust in practice. Furthermore, the conventional feelings about what is good and what is bad are usually very misleading and often morally inane. Respect life, truth, growth, meaning in yourself and in others, and you are not amoral. I think you are just saying that you have ceased to be a legalist. For this there is nothing due but congratulations. Finally, about being united with God's will. I don't mean that you should specially formulate this in words frequently, but rather just develop a habitual awareness and conviction that you are completely in His hands and His love is taking care of you in everything, that you need have no special worries about anything, past, present, or future, as long as you are sincerely trying to do what He seems to ask of you. And of course, by that I mean simply what is called for by the obvious needs of the moment, duties of state, people you meet, events to cope with, sicknesses, mistakes, and so on. When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep. It is basically the same attitude as the Zenists, and presupposes that one has been able to let go of useless preoccupations with oneself, and with too clear a concept of God, too, for that matter. We don't always have to cultivate the I-thou stance that people make such a fuss about. When it comes in handy or is appropriate, okay. I would not be thinking about God's love, but just have a habitual awareness of this fact, that whether you think about it or not, everything will be taken care of. And hence what I really mean by it is not thinking about yourself and not trying to figure everything out. As to trying to think of something horrible so as not to be carried away with low-grade ecstasy. Why do that? Why not just take things as they come and don't try to change everything? Sooner or later, your system will get tired of experiencing everything intensely, and you will go into something else, perhaps much more negative or just neutral. In any case, there is no point anticipating it, for that will only give you more temptations to figure everything out. You have nothing to worry about. You are certainly not pathological. Your nature is getting a bit rocked, and there is not much you can do about it. Do not attach too much importance to any individual happening or reaction, and do not look for very special significances. All is part of a purification process with which you must be patient. You have an ego which you obviously cannot get rid of by ego willing, and the more you try, the more you will be in a bind. You cannot scheme, you cannot figure, you cannot worm your way out of it. Only God can unlock the whole business from the inside. And when He does, then everything will be simple and plain. Obviously, the human element complicates everything, but what else are we? Human, that's all. Dying is no answer either, but of course it is attractive since it promises liberation from all the ego jazz, emotions, etc. But what are you now, except what you are then? Identify with the ground, and you won't worry too much about the weeds. The ground doesn't. And the ground can't be anything but good. In himself, he plants his own seeds without you knowing or being able to do much about it. Just don't go cultivating weeds on purpose with the idea that they are something very special, either specially good or specially bad. If I never write another line, I couldn't care less. And if the guy's knife slips and takes my head off, he's talking about going to the doctors for an operation, I couldn't care less either. This is no virtue, just a weed. Actually, life and death do not matter much, and they are not our business to determine. The only thing we have to do is to seek in every way not to place any obstacle in the way of God's will that comes up inscrutably out of the ground of our lives. This does not mean being totally weedless either. Anyway, I am never sore to have one say a mass for me. I assure you of that. I have a deeper and deeper sense of the great importance of the Mass, as you too intimate in your letter. There's no question of it. And this was at the end, towards the end, the last 2.5 or so years of his life, when people say he had left the faith. Not much point in longing for solitude. It is not something you get, but something you have. It is you. What are you looking for? To see yourself as a happy object? It is a waste of time. Being solitary, I no longer give it a thought, because solitude is an illusion like everything else. The only ground is emptiness, which is love. And this is not something we generate under nice and favorable conditions. The conditions are unimportant. You know all this, but I might as well say it. All is not simple and easy in the solitary life. But the thing about it is that the trials make sense, and one sees that one has to go through them and put up with them, and one tries to meet it all in a constructive sort of way. So it is work to do. I am not going to try and be guru to you about solitary life. I understand your yearning for it, obviously, with a great deal of prayer, humility, willingness to be changed and transformed interiorly, to be quieted down, etc., etc., and to do all the rest that God asks of you as time goes on. You will doubtless prepare to meet his grace. What are you looking for me to do? Tell me you are not an eccentric? If you need someone to tell you that, you are not by any means ready for solitude. But if you get up in the air about my saying so, it will confirm my saying it. In other words, take it easy. Take what God gives and trust him. He will do the rest. All is not easy and simple in the solitary life. This is no mysterious statement. It simply means what it says and is quite clear to anyone who has ever read anything about it or been involved in it. It is an unusual life in which one has to find out a great deal by trial and error, and in which there are few really valid roadmaps, because each vocation is different. Each situation is different. Each one has in himself his own devils to fight with. This is ABC. It is not meant to be a disquieting statement. It is like saying, it is likely to rain hard today. Better take a raincoat. Actually, I don't say my life is crawling with problems. I have far fewer real problems in the hermitage that are specifically hermitage problems than I had in the community. I would not change the life for anything. I am not going around singing alleluias about how beautiful it is, because by now I am used to it and don't especially want to talk about it. I am not going to write much at all about solitude, because when I am living it, that is enough. There is no point in watching myself live it. I turn my mind to something else when it comes to speaking out. It is simply the only life I am at all ready to live seriously and for keeps. The rest does not interest me for 5 seconds. I lay no claims at all to being a first-class hermit or a first-class anything else. But I know this silence and this aloneness in the woods is for me. That's the best I can say about it. As to being the one who is going to make the road maps, sorry. I guess if that is needed, someone will come along and do it. In any case, my own solitude is quite peculiar, because I am a writer, and hence there are modalities in it which are not those of an ordinary hermit vocation, if such a thing exists. No hermit is ordinary. We are all cracked in slightly different ways, that's all. The first thing is to accept ourselves as we are, and God's grace as it is given. To learn to recognize this, one may need help, I guess. And then to learn to live without too many exorbitant plans and projects for the future. To do this now is already a good preparation for the solitary life, I think. It constitutes a kind of desert existence that has a validity of its own. Have I yet thanked you for the Surangama Sutra? If not, I do now. It is a book of essential importance. Of course, a great deal of it is the product of a certain cultural milieu, but the main idea is of crucial significance, namely, liberation from consciousness. Of all religions, Christianity is the one that least needs techniques, or least needs to depend on them. Nor is the emphasis on sacraments necessary either. The great thing is faith. With a pure faith, our use of techniques, our understanding of the psyche, and our use of the sacraments all become really meaningful. Without it, they are just routines.